Hello everybody! My name is Natalie and today I would like to tell you about business etiquette and culture of Japan. Nowadays, our world is becoming more and more globalized, which means that we live and communicate with people from different cultural backgrounds. Cultural awareness is very important because it helps people to be successful not only in business communication but in an everyday life too. To begin with, Japan is an island country lying off the east coast of Asia. It consists of a great amount of islands that stretched from approximately 2,400 kilometers through the North Pacific Ocean. Japan, which is so advanced in terms of technology and infrastructure, at the same time is adhered to traditional cultural approaches to all things in everyday life and business. When you come to any country, the first thing you do is greeting locals or people who host you. In Japan, standard greeting is bowing. There are three kinds of bowing in Japan based on the occasions. The first variant is a shaki, which is a light bow a few degrees, about 15. It is used as a more casual greeting or a small apology. Kirei is a mid-bow about 30 degrees that you will most use to show your respect in business contexts. Use this bow upon entering or leaving a room. Shakirei is a deep bow about 45 degrees that is mostly often used on ceremonial occasions. Receiving and giving gifts. People in Japan are rather hospitable and they often exchange gifts with each other and with their guests. What's more, offering a gift is a very important part of business protocol. For example, it is a serious mistake to offer the same gift to two or more Japanese of an equal rank. In the presence of a group of people, offering a gift to one person and failing to do the same with the others is also an offense. Foreign prestigious branded items, pen and pencils, sets of simple commemorative photographs are good choices. It's likely that you'll receive a gift if you spend time doing business in Japan. It's customary to politely refuse the gift 2 times before receiving. If you receive a present, be sure to reciprocate. Presents in pairs considered to be lucky. Business cards in Japan are a business must. Exchanging business cards in Japan considered to be a very important process and has its own strict protocol. If doing business in Japan, have a business card made that has English on one side and Japanese on the other. This card should have the same design elements and information in Japanese and English. Business cards are usually exchanged at the beginning of the meeting. The highest-ranking person will begin the exchange. Throughout Asia, it's common, polite practice to give and receive business cards and gifts with both of your hands. The writing should face the receiver, Japanese side up. Japanese never say no. Not to begin a conflict, Japanese will avoid saying no directly. However, they say no often in other ways, such as they try to suggest an alternative, change the subject, just keep silence. Saying something is difficult. Let's talk about another interesting facts about Japanese business culture. Since Japanese are rather superstitious, they are usually in real awe of death. Businessmen should be careful of all symbols of death when doing business in Japan. If you wear a kimono, make sure you wrap the left side over the right one. Otherwise, you'll hint that you want to be buried. What's more, the word for in Japanese sounds like the word death and is therefore considered unlucky. Do not wear a black suit, white short, and a black tie because that's funeral attire. However, you can wear such black suit, white short, with the tie of any other color. White flowers of any kind should be avoided, as they are always used at funerals. Given 4 or 9 flowers or any other items is considered unlucky because the word 9 sounds like the word suffer in Japan. Red Christmas cards should also be avoided since funeral notices are usually printed in this color. It may sound strange since Japanese are rather conservative that many relationships, both business and personal, outside of work of course, are forged by falling down drunk together. And moreover, the person may be invited to a karaoke bar. It's a common practice. He or she will be expected to sing, and it doesn't matter if a person is out of tune, even if a person is completely out of tune. Japanese unique business culture is often considered to be the biggest obstacle for businesses seeking to establish themselves in the Japanese market. To tell the truth, Japanese business culture's particularities may seem strange at first. From business cards to negotiations, there are many interesting unspoken rules. Moreover, as business has a tight connection with the country's culture, some most significant traditions, customs, and ceremonies are worth mentioning too. Biggest events and holidays in Japan. Big Japanese festivals are fun, unforgettable, and they're also a great way to see a bit of Japanese culture. I would like to tell you about Hanami Cherry Blossom Festival. In ancient tradition, the word Hanami actually means flower viewing, and that's exactly what thousands of people do during the spring cherry blossom festival. These ceremonies are held under the trees. Folk songs, traditional dances, and even parades add to the festival atmosphere. Business partners are also called to take part sometimes. Obon. Although technically, Obon is not an official national holiday, it is the most widely observed of Japanese festivals in summer. Obon is a 3-day celebration of ancestor spirits that came home to rest. People visit temples and family graves during Obon. Fires are lit in front of the homes and lanterns help guide the spirits. The Emperor's Birthday. The date of his birthday, December 23rd, is celebrated annually as a national holiday in Japan. The Emperor's birthday was established as an official holiday in 1948 and has drawn a large crowd to the palace since. The Emperor makes several short appearances throughout the day on a windowed balcony. He waves back to the sea of supporters, and tourists are also welcome to stand in the queue to join the spectacle. To tell the truth, the Emperor's birthday is the only day when the inner yard of Emperor's Palace is open for visitors. Japan is an interesting country with some customs that may sound strange at first. For example, noodles, especially soba, are slurped somewhat loudly when eaten. It has been said slurping indicates that the food is delicious. The slurping also serves to cool down the meal for eating. That's a shock, but Japan has 5.5 million vending machines offering anything from soda to live crabs. Another interesting feature of Japanese culture is having raised floors in their houses. At the entrance to a home in Japan, the floor will be usually raised about 6 inches. It's nearly 15 centimeters, indicating you should take off your shoes and put on your slippers. If the house has a tatami mat room, its floor may be raised 1 or 2 inches, indicating you should take off your slippers and walk barefoot. Another interesting feature of Japan is its car culture. One should be careful if he or she decides to take a drive along the Bay Shore route at night. The 70-kilometer stretch is perfect for the high-speed runs of the Japanese street racing and drifting gangs, and was one of the stomping grounds of the Midnight Drifting Club. Although nowadays drifting and illegal racing on the streets of Japan is restricted by local governments, it still exists. This street has become famous for their racing heritage. The movie inspired by the Midnight Club is named after the famous stretch of the highway, as well as lots of other video games and media. To conclude, I should say that Japanese culture is ancient, diverse, and influences various aspects of life in modern Japan. Even today, Japanese culture and traditions are complex and beautiful. It's worth mentioning that Japan, roughly the size of California, is an interesting country with its 130 million inhabitants, which refuses to lose their cultural identity among the din of smartphones and bullet trains. This incredible culture is a part of what makes it such an exciting country to explore. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked it.
Hello, everyone. Today, I would like to give a talk about French culture and some French cultural aspects in general. So, to start with, um, in this slide, you can see on this slide you can see some French symbols or things that symbolize France in general. For example, it's French food, the Eiffel Tower, French flag, and other things. I'm going to emphasize some cultural particularities and symbols that are not so widely and commonly known around the world. And firstly, I would like to tell you about Marion. It's a fictional image, collective image of women of the end of the 18th century after the French Great Revolution. So, Marion represents the permanent values that found her citizens' attachment to the Republic. It is now known as a French motto, liberty, equality, and fraternity, or in French, liberté, égalité, et fraternité. And on this slide, you can see a painting where Marion is presented. Next, not very commonly known fact that one of the main French symbols is a rooster. As during the Iron Age, what is now metropolitan France was inhabited by the Gauls, a collection of Celtic tribes. The Latin word Gallus means both rooster and inhabitant of Gaul. Certain ancient coins bore a rooster, but the animal was not used as the emblem of the tribes of Gaul. Gradually, the figure of the rooster became the most widely shared representation of the French people. And this symbol was banned during the rule of Napoleon I. And then later, it was reestablished by Louis. Also very important fact and interesting fact that a casual synonym for the mainland part of metropolitan France is l'hexagon, or the hexagon, for its approximate shape, and the adjective hexagonal may be a casual synonym of French. And French people use this synonym a lot in their ordinary life. So, talking about business, and as for French business partners, it is very important to know how to address French people correctly. So, a French person is always addressed by the appropriate title, even if you don't know their actual name. In French, it sounds like Monsieur, Madame, Mesdames, et Messieurs. As French partners, business people value the knowledge of their own language. So it is very important to know if a person wants to establish good relationships with French business partners or with French people. And very interesting that French people have interesting and different greeting traditions comparing to Europe or Asia, Latin America, and so on. So, firstly, handshakes are the norm in a business setting or with acquaintances. It is expected that you will shake hands with everyone present when arriving and leaving. Among friends and relatives, secondly, the most common greeting is the la bise, kiss on both cheeks. The la bise consists of placing one's cheek against another's, making a kiss noise, then repeating it on the opposite side. A la bise is sometimes accompanied with an embrace. So, thirdly and finally, a fact that is very important to know that people generally kiss twice during a la bise. However, this varies depending on the region in France. So, in this instance and case, it would be better to just follow your French counterpart. And in this slide, you can see the French president and the representative of Germany, and the French president Emmanuel Macron kissing the Angela Merkel. So then, as for French business etiquette, it is also important to know that etiquette is a French word. So French people value these rules a lot. French executives tend to focus on long-term business relationships. Also, moreover, people in France are usually straightforward, questioning, and probing. They tend to treat the business discussion as an intellectual exercise. And finally, the decision-making pace in French business etiquette is rather slow. Decisions are usually not made at the first meeting because business people prefer to discuss things in detail with somebody at the top. As for French celebrations, there are a lot of them, and on this slide, there are some of them presented, such as Epiphany, Valentine's Day, Shrove Tuesday, or Mardi Gras, that is usually celebrated 40 days before the Easter, and it is actually rather similar to Russian celebration Maslenitsa. Then Labor Day, festival of music that is very popular in France actually. National Day that is usually celebrated on the 14th of July. And it started to be celebrated after the French Great Revolution. And All Saints Day, or Toussaint. And here we can see that most celebrations in France are connected with religion. And finally, I would like to just simply emphasize and notice that it is important to know about French national dishes, as nowadays we can try and taste them not only in France, but I think in high quality restaurant in every country, as the French cuisine is some kind of ethanol all around the world. So here are some of them with pictures and their name in French language. Foie gras, steak tartare, tartiflette, pot-à-feu, quiche de rang, et ratatouille. And then also very important to know about French desserts, as we can try them actually, I think, in every cafe or restaurant. So there are crème brûlée, soufflé, éclair, tarte tatin, macaron, et praline. And to conclude, I think that French culture is very rich and has some interesting particularities that are worth attention, as French people value business partners that know about the history of their country, the language, and other specific details. So I hope it was an interesting talk for you. Thank you for your attention.
Hello, my name is Anastasia, and today I'm going to talk about an exotic, from the perspective of European businessmen, way of running business that can be found in Brazil. In Brazil, business is more about building relations than presenting figures and sums. Brazilians want to know what their potential counterpart is like as a person, his hobbies, interests, attitude to family and football, before getting down to business. That's why personal context is a major way of conducting business there. The time invested in communication will contribute significantly to successful outcome. Social status, family, and education are far more important than individual achievements. During negotiations, words have less weight for Brazilians than eye contact, gestures, and emotions. They like everything to be simple. Consequently, they would rather shy away from discussions or actions when confronted with an unpleasant question, problem, or situation. One of the most remarkable features is Brazilian yes, no, and perhaps. Getting a yes doesn't always mean a 100% yes. A person should better ask several clarifying questions and either get confirmation or, in case his interlocutor tries to get away with it, accept the rejection. Brazilian perhaps is an unambiguous no. If one got such an answer, he should back off, consider, maybe rephrase the suggestion, but never insist on it. Otherwise, it can lead to failure in relationship. Getting no means that a person stepped across the line and the situation can be forgotten at best, but more often there is no hope for approachment. Brazilians always attempt to profit from everything, jack up the price for a foreigner, try to modify the contract's terms without notice. There even exists a special word for this feature, jeitinho, that is literally translated as a short and easy way. This imported informal concept helps them avoid problems and obstacles and makes their life easier, especially while confronting the Brazilian bureaucracy. Looking for loopholes in order to circumvent the difficulties is a significant part of Brazilian culture and life, some sort of a sport. In this context, a foreigner should be always alert, carefully check any treaty before signing, even after all the final edits. In general, Brazil is not a country to relax, despite the fact that its residents are kind, positive, and cheerful people. Just this feature is in their blood and is not considered to be shameful. What concerns meetings and appointments, they should be set up in the morning, because later a Brazilian businessman's thoughts are mostly about plans for evening pastime. Before getting down to business, some time should be spent on coffee and pleasant conversation about extraneous things. That's why these meetings can last several hours without sticking to schedule. Brazilians don't like to be in a hurry, so being late for an hour passes for normal. A businessman can count on 50-30 minutes. Arriving on time is not accepted. The weirdo who arrives at first, this is the way they call punctual people. They will never show up on time for a party, negotiations, or even a military gathering for a walk. All the Brazilians' life revolves around the main event of the year, Carnival. It takes place at the height of the Brazilian summer, in February. For 4 days and 4 nights, all work stops and business life literally stands still. So no meetings should be planned for this period. To sum up, a skillful use of this information will help to break the ice and find an approach to a Brazilian businessman that will surely benefit cooperation. Here I've come to the end of my talk about Brazil. I strongly advise you to visit this fascinating and extraordinary country to make your own opinion about the Brazilians and their culture.
Hello everybody, today I would like to tell you about business etiquette in Germany. So let's get started. Germany is a country located in the middle of Europe with a population of 83 million people. This country has a rich history, unique people with specific behavior and attitudes, social customs and traditions. There is a widespread opinion that Germans are better than hardworking people, but is it truth? That is a question to be answered. In the business sphere, the Germans are very punctual and accurate. They don't speak about personal questions on a business meeting. It's a strict equality between the Germans, and it is common for men to shake each other's hand, so it is for women. There ought to be certain distance between people who know each other as recently. You should keep distance at arm's length, otherwise the Germans will consider it as an invasion of privacy. While greeting, you should firmly shake the other person's hand, looking in his eyes. Humor and a smile in business will be welcome too. One said that being late in Germany is equal to breaking the law and punished by abatement of the relations. The Germans never forget to call exactly on time as they promise, so the same with fulfilling their agreements. They never leave a message without an answer, even if the answer implies refusal. They always pay on time and are true to their words. Nevertheless, many people that live in Germany know that the Germans are far not so patterned. These people say that in Germany only 1 or 3 meetings starts on time, trains rarely follow the schedule just precisely, and such contingent like plumbers and electricians even don't know what it is to come on time. The social ability. It's very important in Germany. It often plays the crucial role in applying for a job. For example, there was an incident with a person who applied for a job as a programmer. The main factor for getting the job was high-level sociability, while no other qualities necessary for that job were asked of him. So sometimes this system is rather preposterous. Handshake is a very common gesture between the Germans. It's used to handshake when greeting or say goodbye to somebody. Handshake can denote agreement or disagreement depending on the context. The closer the relationship between the German and another person, the longer they shake each other's hand. Men can pat each other on the back or on the upper arm. But it's better for a foreigner to avoid such familiarities before the German does it first. The important difference between Russian and German cultures is that women handshake just like men. One should never discriminate women in such a way in business. It's okay to point a finger at someone in Germany, but be sure not to show your fist to other person, as the gesture is considered as insulting the person's stupidity. Some words about dress style. The dress style is restrained and classic. Usually the Germans prefer to wear a dark-colored suit, with a light colored monochrome shirt and a tie. In these pictures, you can see how the Germans like to dress up. Some words about gifts. It's not customary to give presents in German business sphere. It is only would be good to present interesting souvenirs from other country and stationery with unique logo. And to conclude, the place of negotiations. The Germans prefer to live in the work and personal life, so they rarely invite business partners to a dinner or to their home. Instead, they prefer to discuss all things during a lunch in a restaurant or in a meeting room. So, we see that the Germans are very businesslike and specific people who try to do everything just fine, devoting a lot of time to what they are into. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Lera. I would like to tell about culture of Austria. Running a business is not an easy work. Each businessman should have a huge amount of knowledge in various areas. One of the most important areas is cultural awareness. A person who running a business with foreign companies must know the host country culture, specifically behavior and attitudes, social customs and traditions, ceremonies and festivals, and other aspects of culture. As well, he must have interpersonal skills and be pretty fluent in English and other languages. Consider a business relationship in Austria and how people who starting a business relationship with foreign partners should behave. The basic principles of business etiquette are similar in all European countries. But each country has different characteristics due to different culture, history, and customs. First of all, punctuality is truly a national characteristic of the Austrians. In our country, a delay of 5–10 minutes is rarely perceived as a serious problem. Austrians see things differently. In Austria, not only businessmen but all people usually plan events for weeks and months in advance. Being late, even a couple of minutes, can undermine your business reputation. The possibility of being late should be warned in advance. Also, never cancel a business meeting at the last minute. Secondly, the Austrians are very attentive to titles and appeals that are so unusual in Russia. Even if you are on friendly terms with the Austrian partners, at work in the presence of colleagues and employers, you must use official appeals. Third, Austrian business etiquette dictates the exchange of polite questions before starting negotiations. The Austrian will definitely ask how your trip went, how you spent the previous evening, etc. It would be quite appropriate to ask counter questions of a similar order. You can talk about classical music and opera, Austrian art and architecture, winter sport, but not about finance, religion, the role of Austria in World War II. Also, gift exchange is not a common part of the business process in Austria. The country has one of the smallest indicators of corruption in the world. It is better to choose souvenirs of moderate cost, which do not oblige the host. For example, an art album, a bottle of souvenir alcohol, a trinket with a national flavor. Further, you should stock up on enough business cards and carefully prepare for negotiations because usually the meeting should bring concrete results. The main features of business culture in Austria are punctuality, formalism, and strict hierarchy. The Austrians are quite conservative and can negatively perceive innovations, up to breakdown of negotiations. Austria has a unique culture. Vienna is considered to be a musical center of Europe. Names such as Mozart, Bach, Schubert, Strauss are directly related to the Austrian capital. Almost every major city in Austria has a theater, museum, or gallery. In Austria, the idea of an educated society is practically implemented, where each individual member doesn't feel disadvantaged. According to the etiquette, the Austrians follow certain rules. Firstly, Austrians not only shake hands, but also kiss on the cheeks. The slide shows the painting The Kiss by Gustav Klimt, a famous Austrian artist and decorator. Secondly, gentlemen will obligatorily open the door to the lady, let her go ahead and kiss her hand when they meet. But in public transport, men are not obliged to give way to women. Third, inviting an Austrian for dinner, you can most likely be sure that he will definitely bring a bouquet of flowers for the hostess or a bottle of French wine. Either since childhood, the Austrians have been taught not to invade the intimate area of unfamiliar people. Knowing the business and cultural characteristics of the country, you can not only build business relationships, but also have a good time. Thanks for attention.